So without further ado, could I ask you all to get to your feet and give a big Startup Brian Limerick welcome to Barry Lunn from Arralis.
No pressure there, Pat, thanks.
So Barry, look, just forget they're all here, right?
Okay.
We're just having a chat.
We are, yeah. This is what my sitting room is like.
So how are you?
Except it's kids instead of adults normally.
Can I just be kind of like really embarrassed you and mention that we were chatting in Dublin during the week and you had dinner with Justin Trudeau and Leo Varadkar the night before?
Or Tuesday night, as I like to call it, Pat, you know.
Or should I say they had dinner with you?
That was it, exactly. They heard I was here on holidays. He does it every time, Trudeau.
They want selfies?
It was the French thing.
Selfies?
Yeah, a few.
Okay. So, your background, like family and stuff, was there an entrepreneurial gene in the family? I know you started working in a well-known Limerick men's store at the age of 11, so you were obviously hustling from an early age. Did it come from the folks?
It did, yeah. Well, so I wouldn't say maybe entrepreneur, but sales was bred in very, very young. Like my late dad was probably the best salesman I ever met because he wasn't a salesman. It was a relationship. It was people trusted him. He was well known here in Limerick, and so he worked in Connolly's for years. And sure, I was dragged in there very young, and I'd say I did probably my longest job stint actually. I think it was about 12 years there, part-time, all the way through school, through secondary school, and onto college as well. So yeah, that's where you no better place to learn how to sell than flood into the public straight, you know.
Right, good stuff.
I wasn't the straightest in though.
Right. We'll get on to the hustle, but so after school, like I actually thought you were like an engineering graduate, but you corrected me during the week and said you actually started in the School of Art and Design.
I did, yeah. It was interesting. Like school didn't really work for me. It's a polite way of putting it. I went to primary school. I grew up in Carroll Nation. Great fun in primary school, and like the lads there are still my family. In fact, our ops man, chief operations officer, Eamon, we grew up together, and he's a Carroll Nation man as well. So that was all fine. I went to Section Street then CBS. The secondary school just didn't work for me. It wasn't for me. So I left school and then I went back, and then I eventually did my Leaving Cert. And I remember then when I got my CAS, I got engineering in UL, and I got into Limerick School of Art and Design. And my dad was on the sales side, my mother was probably on the creative side, and she said, look, I know lots of engineers, just even in the locality, I know loads of engineers. I don't know anyone going to art college. I felt like saying to her, our next door neighbours actually inside her, but I didn't. So she said, do that, it makes you happy, it's what you enjoy, go and do that. And it was great advice. I went to LSAD, great 4 years, great education. Ended up specialising then. I thought I wanted to be an artist. I discovered very quickly I didn't have the patience for it. And certainly the painting lecturers didn't have the patience for me. And so I specialised then in design. And then I went into, I was always a bit of a techie. I was always breaking stuff. I call it making stuff, but my family assured me it was breaking stuff.
So you were like a mechanic kid?
I was a Lego head, and my two kids are the exact same, and I still play with Lego. Allegedly I buy toys for them, I buy toys for me. And so yeah, I always had that, always making and breaking. So art college is great that way. It allows you to explore loads of different avenues. In fact, regular college could learn an awful lot from it about encouraging that creativity. It also teaches you self-criticism, because that's what it's actually all about. Going to college to learn art, you can't learn art, but you can learn, to be critical. You can learn to be abstract. You can learn to bring elements in. So it was brilliant from that point of view. That's served me all the way through. We bring that right through any of the companies I was in. I've always brought that creative thinking. Let's think, let's bring something abstract into this equation and make it a bit weird. So it worked very well for me. But I went back the engineering route, and I started, developing websites back in the 90s, around the dot-com boom. So I was on, I'm going to be a billionaire. And so that was kind of how I got into it. And then that's what led me to kind of the career I'm in now, because I met two Limerick entrepreneurs who had sold a company back in the 90s and done very well for themselves, the Subarus. And actually, I think they were one of Ed Walsh's first spin-outs when he was setting up the spin-outs from UL. And they were coming back together, and I was their kind of first employee. And they had realised it was hardware, it was systems for aerospace, but they had realised that the customer interfaces with the front end. So employee number one was a fellow building front ends that didn't know his limits, and got in with them, and that's where it all started in the whole aerospace and millimetre wave. And
brilliant. And did you learn from them?
I did. I learned a lot from them. I mean, the boys had done it before, so there was an element of that. I'm painful. Like I'm sure I drove them mad. I just ask questions all the time. Like I read ridiculous amounts. So I constantly was soaking stuff off of them and learned, and I travelled constantly with them. Like we were all international sales. Ireland doesn't have any. I lived in France, live in Ireland, lived in France, and then moved to China when we expanded there. That's how I met Mike. Mike came in to grow the Chinese side of that business.
It's Mike Greaves, your co-founder.
Mike Greaves, yeah. It's alright, it's English. Pronounce it any way they want. You should hear the way people pronounce my kids' names. So Mike and myself met then. We were down in China building up the company from zero. It was great fun down in Shenzhen, the Wild West. And I learned a lot there as well. You learn a lot when the boys would have been very much like, here, go and do it. And eventually, the board appointed me CEO of that company.
That was
Emedion. Yeah. So it was the aerospace systems. Yeah. So we were creating loads of value for other people, which was killing me. So anytime we developed IPs, we kind of spun it out and we set up a few startups, and I'd go and run them, and then I'd come back and. So we were selling lots of other people's products, putting them together and making a system. But I was sick of making other people rich. So we grew that from 0 to 25 million with 10 people. So it was an amazing success. It was sales. The boys were like animals for sales, and so they found the right fella with me.
So you turned over 25 million within 2 years.
Within 5 years.
Within 5 years. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
We're not Facebook it was incredible. Yeah, it was incredible with a small number of people, and it was great. So I learned lots, but also you learn things but our margins wouldn't have been good, because the margins are all passed down the line when you're a systems company or anyone doing services. There's no margin there. So I learned very quickly margin. It's all about margin. Turnover, as they say, is vanity. The sanity is in the margin and where the profitability. Now, don't get me wrong, people made money, but when I was going again, or when we were going to do Arralis, we were very strategic about that and said, let's go into a high margin business.
Right.
And that was important.
So 2013, 4 years ago, Arralis started?
Yeah, that was it. So we kind of, the idea for it was the beginning of 2013. And it took the bones of a year for me to extricate myself from Emedion, and I was involved in a couple of other startups as well. And we learned previously, because I was, at that time in 2013, I was kind of running 3 companies. And if there's one thing I learned is, if you want to be successful, you have to focus. So that year was all about separating everything out and getting out and getting set up. So I kind of went full time then. January 14, Mike and myself went full time. Arralis, with everything else was put away, and went for it, heads down.
Great. So how was that first year like?
It was great. It was busy. It was very busy. We were very clear. We didn't I think learn from so much from other. Some would say we learned on someone else's dime, but look, we learned a lot from previous experience. We knew each other. There was none of that teething problem of getting to know each other. We lived together in the Wild West of China. There was nothing we were going to learn about each other. We dealt with any issues we could have back then. So it allowed us full focus on the company. We brought in lads, everyone that was involved, Eamon and Marie and the lad in Denver from the start. We'd worked with them all previously. So it was lovely. We had a small family. We got it together and went for it. But we had a very clear vision. We knew what we were doing. We set up a proper company, and I'd say that to anyone, focus on that. We put structures in place, brought in 2 non-exec directors. Eamon and Ryan is here, so he can correct me when I lie, because that's what he's been doing all his life. And Pat Sullivan Green, the 2 of them came in, sat on a board with a proper board, with proper board meetings, and from day one, data rooms, everything, and we went for it. And we were able to kind of bring in customers straight away because we had a bit of experience, but it was services, it was designing things for other people. So that was important to make sure we kind of got off of that.
So how important is it having a co-founder?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Like especially when you have an ego like mine, sometimes you start to think you can do everything. But by God, you can't. There's a work. If you're doing it right, you can't do it on your own. I don't care who you are. And the co-founder thing is very important because I think 2 is a good number. And I've read a lot on it and I've looked at it a lot. And I get worried when I see 4 and 5 co-founders because there's a CEO there that can't make decisions. Because there's a difference between being a co-founder and being part of the founding team. And the founding team is definitely much bigger than Mike and I. But the fellas throwing in their money, the fellas putting their lives on the line, and it's great being able to reflect back on that. And we've spent a lot of time together then. It's the downtime, it's on the plane and that side of things. Being able to lean back on each other and go, right, am I daft? And there's an element of like things that you can't say to anyone else. You can't tell your wife because she's going to get worried that you've screwed the family. You can't tell your staff because they're starting looking for a job. So the co-founder, that's where they are. And actually, that's what the non-exec is too. Non-exec can be that person as well that you can, go on my daft.
So Mike is your CIO?
No, he's our CTO.
CTO, like pardon. So
our
Chief Technical
brains
Officer.
of the
You're the
operation.
CEO.
I'm the CEO.
Just define those 2 roles and where they differentiate from each other.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, sure, you're doing a bit of everything. Mike would be a very customer, and I'd be a very customer-facing CEO. Like, there's, different companies have different things. There's CEOs that have glamorous roles, and there's CEOs that have my role. And Mike would be the same. So he's a customer-facing CTO, and Chief Technology Officer. He's trying to set the technical roadmap and bring the engineering team along with that, but doing it very much based on customer requirement. So that's why I'd say customer facing. Mike's on planes as much, if not more than me. So the 2 of us do all the traveling, and so we know what the customers want. We spend the time on the ground, and of course, then my job is a couple of others. In fact, I like to break things down into simple things, and I felt from the beginning like I've 3 jobs essentially. One is to set that strategy from the beginning of where we're going, and we fairly stuck to that. Second is keep money in the bank, which is pretty bloody important. Whatever way you do it, whether you're raising money or your sales, you have to keep money in the bank. And then the third one is bringing in people smarter than you. In my case, that was easier. In Mike's case, it was a bit more difficult, But,
so we'll go back to the technical side of what the products are and stuff, but on the CEO side, so the hustle of sales, funding, strategy and all that, what was your early experience with funding? Did you bootstrap for long? What was your first funding round and when did you need that?
Yeah, the first funding was myself and Mike. We threw in our own money, and that didn't come easy either. You're very conscious of that because I was giving up my job and I was putting money into the company, and same for Mike. So that was the first money. But we did a seed round then in 2014, pretty quickly after starting. And to be fair, Enterprise Ireland were brilliant. They came in very early. We kind of told them what we were doing. I'd say around the 23rd of December 2013, and I'd say we had approval for money in like January, the end of January. But they knew we knew how to tick boxes, and we got it right for them. So then, we went out and raised a seed round. That was purely so we could stop doing services. That was critical to us. We knew that we had to stop creating value for anyone else, so we could then focus fully on our own. So we did a seed round. We did a 1.2 million seed round in 2014. That was reasonably painless, which is a dangerous thing to say in a room like this because everyone goes through pain. But I think we had a bit of a history. We had sales. We had profit. We were actually making money. And so we closed that quickly.
Who joined Enterprise Ireland and the venture capital side?
So we had ACT Venture Capital and Carroll Capital. So they came in. So Carroll came in first for 500k, and we were kind of playing them against ACT. And then once we closed, we went back to ACT and said, now do you want to come in on the same terms? And they did, which was great because we raised double what we thought we needed, and we needed every bit of it.
And Carroll have a Bank of Ireland fund. probably say.
They do.
Okay, great. So that was 1.2 million. What did you do with that? Was it like recruiting? What was the first actions then to get from services, which was low margin, to IP and?
Yeah, we developed a product that we said we were going to develop, really, and that was it. We started with, like, people are often asking us, like, why did you start in doubly band 94 gigahertz? What was the thing? Like, it was partially we knew we had customers that would buy it, right? And they were a little niche, and we knew we could get them. But the other part of it was partially marketing, because marketing is expensive, and we didn't have the funds to do that. So in our heads we thought, right, look, if we tackle something hard, and doubly band's bloody hard, and I'm glad I wasn't the guy that had to do it, but if we tackle something hard, it'll open doors. And if anything, people will even just want to meet, who are these daft Irish fellas that are going after doubly band,
Can you just explain to the layman
doubly band?
Doubly band.
Well, I suppose doubly band's too boring to explain, but I suppose what we do is we're up in millimetre waves, and like everyone knows what microwaves are, right? And that's where our communications are, and they're ubiquitous now, right? There's microwaves all around us, in my pocket now, friends. So millimetre waves is the higher frequency end of that, and literally waves that are millimetre in size. It's not, it's not very complex. And essentially we were about harnessing that. And we didn't invent it, this is physics, it's there. All we did was, we took something that traditionally had only been used by the military. So you take the likes of the doubly band stuff, the 94 gigahertz stuff we were doing. The properties of that have been known for a long time. So it's on the front end of the best missiles in the world, for example. The front ends alone just cost about $45,000, right? That's not scalable, that's not, consumers don't get to use that kind of stuff. So really what we were about was making that accessible, bringing that, almost doing like what semiconductors have done for the computing industry, doing that again for millimetre waves. So that's why we were a semiconductor company. That's why we were, and it evolved then into a more fully integrated front end as we discovered people didn't know what the hell to do with doubly band chips. We had to build out and do a bit more. But that's essentially what it is, and so it's very useful for communication. So we're moving into 5G now. So millimetre wave is the future of 5G. We knew that. So when we were setting up the company, that's what we were looking at. And the other thing was autonomous vehicles. And we knew, you were never going to get to autonomous vehicles and drones or whatever without millimetre waves. You had to harness it. We were seeing that no one was doing it, and that's why we said, right, let's do it. That was the frustration that led to.
And was that a big gamble, or was there an obvious route to market eventually for that?
The gamble is technical, and there's an obvious route to market, as in here the guys we want to sell to. Getting to it is bloody hard. Sales isn't easy. That's why people shy away from it. People like to pretend that sales, is ugly, and that they're above it. But the reality is that most people step away from sales because it's a harsh reality. You're putting yourself in front of a mirror. You've customers that can tell you what you have is a load of crap. So an awful lot of startups fall into that space of avoiding that for too long. So people think we did things quickly, but actually it was just we didn't do any of the navel gazing. We didn't have time, and actually with our stage in life as well, which I think is why here comes my first post about being old. But there's a reason why older founders tend to be more successful. I think it's because you've mouths to feed. You've your life. You've got to get on with it, and that was a big thing for us. I don't care. If 10 people said no, that's fine. 11 fellas go.
And did you initially come out with kind of an MVP to test the market, or are you saying a lot of startups spend too much time sort of polishing the product and perfecting before focusing on sales?
Yeah, there's an element to that. Obviously, we're in hardware, so you have to have something really. You can't iterate that quickly. We're semiconductors. It's not. We had to tape out wafers. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. But we just got down to it, and we weren't afraid of breaking the wafer, and especially in silicon startups, that can be a big issue, testing it to the nth degree. And what we were doing, the only way you could learn was by taping out, because even the fabrication, where we were fabricating, they didn't know what the process could do up at our frequencies, and it had never been done before. So it was all their models and things were extrapolated. So that's where the risks were. That we could have fallen on our face, but I didn't realise that. Yeah. what was I doing that?
You're obviously enjoying it and didn't overthink it.
That's it. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we didn't. We knew we'd get there. We'd smart people, like, you know. We'd Denver coming in, and he'd experience there, and you know, Mike's no fool. So you know, I knew there was enough people around me that could solve it. And actually, that's a big thing with customers as well. Like, customers don't just buy the product; they're looking at you and they're going, "If these fellas, if these fellas screw up, can they solve it?" And we took a very honest approach, like, with customers, even big blue chip guys. We didn't go in and spoof them and say, no. We did a bit at the beginning. We maybe, you know, but as we grew up, we were very careful, especially moving into the States, we were very careful to kind of not over-promise. We were more interested in over-delivering. And when we had a problem, we picked up the phone and told them. And they said, okay, that's fine. You know, it's not... They all have put their trousers on one leg at a time, and you know, and it's in their interest to help you as well, because you know they're the customer, and they don't. There's always someone looking over their shoulder. And
so, were you manufacturing in China and selling to the States?
We were, yeah. Well, no, I mean the fabrication was done. The initial fabrication was all done in Taiwan, which most semiconductor fabrication is done. But now we fabricate in Europe, and we're starting to fabricate in the US as well. But then the assemblies and stuff were all done here in Limerick and in Belfast. So we had the design centre in Belfast from day one as well. We set up the two concurrently because we had a network there. We had done a few startups there, and we had a group that we could put together there quite quickly as well.
Why Belfast?
Belfast, there's Queen's University, the millimetre wave group, and not to be heard anyone really out of the millimetre, but there were people who had previously done their PhDs and stuff there. So we have a lot of PhDs. You know, as I said, we have a lot of people, a hell of a lot smarter than me. But again, then we brought that element of, you know, because a PhD will polish something to the nth degree. We brought that element of let's get rid of the fear, let's go for it. That kind of, maybe that's the startup mentality then you're trying to bring to it, you know.
So dealing with sort of manufacturers in Taiwan and then Belfast and Limerick and then selling the States, like how much do you have to adapt to different cultures in terms of how you deal with Americans versus Taiwanese and stuff? You know, come back to like the personality and looking people in the eye thing. There must have been a lot of sort of learnings along the way. Was there like for that culture?
There is big time, and as well, like that would have been something we'd have spent a lot of our business planning around. And obviously, the previous experience was huge because you can waste so much time. Like we knew, for example, China takes a long time. We knew in the US, if you go and tell someone you have something, they'll call your bluff and bloody orders. We knew in China that wouldn't happen, so we started the process there earlier. European market was again slightly different. Again, European Space Agency was very important. We knew they would do deep dive technical, so went to them nice and early. Enterprise Ireland were a big help there. You know, they got involved with us and brought us through that process and how to become a supplier to the European Space Agency. So there's an adapt in your story for each one. And I mean, I remember with ESA, that was our first order for our product, so that was a huge one for us. And I remember with the agency, like the fact, you know, the first time they looked at what we were doing, they said, "This is impossible. On the money that you're saying you can do it on, and on the timeline." So it was great when the boys got in there on budget and quicker. And that didn't change the relationship with ESA completely. They were like, "Okay, you're real. You can do it." And then there's second, third, and the contracts.
How did Enterprise Ireland ease that process?
Well, I mean, they essentially EI managed the Irish investment in ESA, so they're our liaison with the European Space Agency. You have to get their kind of approval on it. But as well, like they were a good guy. They knew, you know, this is how the process works. This is what you have to do, and so we'd keep a good. We've always kept in very well with EI because their overseas offices we found very useful as well. Like you know, they're brilliant. Like we just I'll use whatever I can. We tap into them. Like I'm sure they're sick to hell of me. But like, you know, in China, we brought customers to the embassy, and the ambassador greets them. But their worry is some fly-by-night company that could disappear tomorrow, and we're stuck building a program.
It's like the government endorsing you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, and they get that, and they might know where the hell Ireland is, but they know what an embassy is, and they know when they're being taken care of.
And I think sometimes people just think of them as funding and forget that the worldwide network. What's it, 30 locations around the world or more? I remember a Swiss guy saying this, like Switzerland's twice our population and they've got 2 foreign offices. And a Swiss guy saying to me, you know, you're half our size and you have 30 offices around the world. I think sometimes we underestimate that reach.
Yeah. I think that's probably the strongest thing they have is that, as I say, we'd have been very clear though as well. I think that the mistake, people kind of go to Enterprise Ireland and say, well, you know, here we are now, entertain us, to quote Kurt Cobain. And that's not how it works. We went and said, we need this, we need this, we need this. They can do that.
Yeah.
Enterprise Ireland are there to run your business.
You need to know what you want.
You know what you want.
Yeah,
and as well,
that's a very good point.
on the raising money off them as well and things like that. People complain about the paperwork. Yeah, come work in the aerospace defence industry and see how what paperwork is like. I've never had a problem with that stuff. I just think, like, you got to fill in the form, so what? It's taxpayers' money. Fill in the form.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, people can't answer the questions, that's the problem.
So your first order was at 250,000 from ESA?
It was, yeah.
That was within, what, a year?
That was at the end of 2014.
Wow.
So that was great.
Nice order, year in.
It was lovely. It was brilliant. Yeah. It felt good, I'll tell you. And again, and that was down to the technical side. So the first win wasn't mine. So that's great too. It puts a bit of pressure on me to put in a bit of commercial customer and stuff as well, you know. But yeah, that was great. And then, but of course, the problem is, again, you know, we got ballsy because of that. And the start of 2015, we had a lovely board meeting. I'm sure everyone will remember it. And we said, right, we're stopping services. And that was probably the most important decision. We'd taken in the seed round. We'd won our first customer. So we said, right, that's dropping. Now we're flying by the seats of our trousers.
It's kind of brave because you were stopping income coming in, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we went for it. And it's amazing then what could happen in that year. You know, we went for it and we worked hard and we grew the team a little bit. We didn't grow the team stupidly. Like I see funding rounds announced the whole time, and then they say they're going to, you know, create 50 jobs and stuff like this, and I'm trying to do the maths, and I'm going, what are they paying everyone? You know, €5 a day? I've never been able to do the math on that. So we kept it lean. We went for it. Like our industry is slightly different as well as the software industry, where, you know, our type of customer, our customer are aerospace and they're automotive. They're the main markets for our stuff in comms set, and those guys are around a long time, and they don't want to deal with companies that might disappear tomorrow. So, you know, a bit of sanity on your way of doing things, and, you know, the fact that they're okay with you making money. They don't want you to disappear. So I think we took that approach. It worked for us. Like, and that, like anything I would say here, I would say, you know, take it with a grain of salt. It's what worked for us. Like, certainly you can't apply anything I would say to every company. You know, we have to be very careful about that, because I think people sometimes do that. You know, but it worked for us. 2015 was the pivotal year, because by the end of Q4 2015 was profitable, which was brilliant. We were on to our second European Space Agency contract. We signed a couple of big contracts in China, and we made money in that quarter. And that's the sanity thing. Like, I don't do anything. You know, I hear people saying, you know, do this for investors and do that. You know, that they you know, you'll raise money if you do like, we did things for ourselves. We did it for the company. It was a proper company. Let's make it profitable and try and do that. So we got into profit at the end of 15, and we maintained that through 2016. So 2016, we just recently submitted our end of year accounts, and the group was profitable. So that was brilliant, because we spent well over $1 million on R&D and got to profitability after two and a half years. So yeah.
And was all this process following your business plan from day one, or did you kind of iterate your route along the way?
Were we pivoting left, right, and centre? We weren't. We were often born, Pat. We had there's little changes you make as you go along, and you kind of adapt to where you see the market is going and stuff. But it's funny, if you pull out the business plan that we had day one and where we are now, there isn't a huge pile of difference. We might have learned along the way how to pitch it better, how to you know, transcribe it better. But the basics, the things we went after, the high margin business and that side of things, that's what's played out. Like, we were looking at companies, like, before we started the company, I was like obsessed with a company called Hittite. And so I used to keep a set of their accounts under my pillow. And they were basically...
Kind of sad, isn't it?
It is a bit. But 10 years, year on year, they did 75% gross margin and 35% net margin for 10 years, year on year, do millimetre wave stuff. So I said, right, let's do a bit of that.
Nice model.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of sanity in that, looking at what people are doing. what was great was we were kind of, when we were actually raising money at the time, 2014, and we were telling investors, look, we're going to build a hit ID Europe. And what do you call it? And then Analog Devices came in and bought Hittite for 2.4 billion, and Hittite were turning over 350 million. I got a phone call from one of the investors, and your plan about Hittite Europe, we're okay with that.
Right. Great. So where was the product going along? Like, was the product changing much? Did you bring out new applications or?
Yeah, like we. I managed to simplify it into a graph last year, which can be a tough thing to do, which is like our entire company in one graph, and I'd recommend anyone to try and do it if you can. And it was essentially, how it worked for us was there's levels of integration without boring anyone any more than I've already done so, but there's levels of integration in the type of technology we do, and it's kind of what I would call one-dimensional integration is how aerospace has done it for years, and that's the 94 gigahertz device that the Air Force drag around in a horse box, right? Or your supercomputer that used to be the size of this room, right? And then this, your mobile phone, that's 3D integrated. That's Steve Jobs ruined everyone's life because he said that's how it should be, right? So there's a path to that in all technologies, or in hardware, and that was our path that we were going along. And as you go along that path, the price point comes down. And as your price point comes down, markets open up. So you get this very simple, like, where we're going is essentially we don't touch a market until I can sell into that market and maintain my gross margin. So my margin is here, and my integration is here, and as I can maintain that margin, get more integration, it opens up new markets. So that's where we've gotten a bit more savvy in the last year or so, where we've started saying no. So someone will ring up and say, we want to do this, and we say, no one has that. Not today. Very few of those conversations I can assure you. But that
fear of being led by the customer.
But we know it doesn't make sense, and so that's why we've moved from our stuff. Is going into helicopters now for landing systems. A helicopter has a price point that it can take, right? So it's going into helicopters, but then it's moving into drones, and now it's moving into automotive because there's a price point that comes each way along the way, and we knew that was going to happen. Like, the analogy I give you is like that, as I say, the best missiles in the world have those front ends. As we go to level 5 autonomy with cars, what are cars? Only missiles and wheels which you take out the driver. And some drivers, anyway, less said the better. But essentially you need that great. So we were very bullish about that actually. When I look back, sometimes, those things that make you wake up in the night screaming because you're so embarrassed by some of the crap you said. And like tomorrow night. But that we were very ballsy about that. So only looking back, and we said to people, listen, come back to us when you're ready to make a grown-up radar. And to be fair, it's coming around that way now, and we found a couple of customers who are bloody big, but they want to do it the way we want to do it. And the thing with that is as well, we're not going to waste time because we know we have the right product for them. When you're trying to shoehorn and they're trying to shoehorn to yours, that's a difficult sale. So I think that's where...
It's going towards consumer market?
Going towards consumer market, yeah, a little bit. Like, we're not a consumer, we're a B2B company, but our technology is going to be going towards consumer. It's not going to happen quick. This stuff, like, aircraft don't get made quick, and cars don't either, and I mean, people talk a lot, people think autonomy is ahead of where it is, and Tesla is a very romantic company, and I love Elon Musk. I think what he's doing is amazing, but it's got nothing to do with Tesla. Like, what he's doing is the rocket thing, it's all feeding into the connected vehicle. That's what it is. I mean, SpaceX and Tesla are going to combine. That's going to happen. The solar city thing, I knew that was going to come in. Tesla and SpaceX, I mean, he's building reusable rockets so he can put up 4,500 satellites, which are disposable satellites for the connected vehicle market. That's where he's going, right? That's the Tesla, and that's where we're going. But like, Tesla probably dropped about 6th or 7th in terms of autonomy. People think, Tesla are using 8-year-old radars inside in their cars. They're nowhere near. I mean, they were ballsy, like they turned it on, which definitely BMW wouldn't do, But they have the romance to get away with that. I mean, if BMW or GM or someone like that did what Tesla did, the press would murder them. But so Tesla have their own, but there's other guys out there doing some really interesting stuff, you know. So I think it's going to be an interesting place. It's not going to be quick.
So have you dealt with Tesla or SpaceX?
I can't talk about any of our customers.
Interesting.
I was Lynn Casey's line, don't ask me about Apple because I'm not allowed to talk about anything with Apple.
So, manufacturing plants, you're working on 2 at the moment. Tell us a bit about them.
Yeah, well.
And where you're locating them and why.
I'll tell you what I can, yeah. I mean, our goal is to kind of, again, this was kind of part of the plan, and as I say, anyone that wants to confirm it, because my colleagues are here and my ex-board members here, so you can check it out with them. But like that was the plan from the beginning. We knew for this stuff, independent supply chains is very important. A lot of what we do is dual use. So when I say it could be used in the front end of a missile, like it literally can. Now, they won't buy our technology because we're not American, we're not Chinese. But so a lot of that stuff is dual use. We were very conscious from the beginning of being making sure that we could export to where we needed to export. We could sell what we like to the US, but as soon as you put something in the US, it's I-turn, you can't bring it back out. So that was an important differentiator for us. So what we're doing at the minute is essentially building 3 independent supply chains across the world, and it's Asia Pacific, Europe, and the Americas. And so that's going on at the minute. So like in Europe, we're fabricating now in Europe, and we're doing assemblies here in Limerick and in Belfast and stuff, and we're building out something here as well in Central Europe. And then we just set up a design centre in Hong Kong. And we're commissioning a factory at the end of July in mainland China, a place called Wuhu, a really fast-growing area of China. And again, that's about the integration of our technology into antennas and into front ends. So that essentially our stuff is very tricky, and you couldn't go to the external supply chain that's already there. It's a bit edgy. And then the US is on the way. So we're starting that. So we'll have our first line open in the US by year end. So we'll probably announce that in the next couple of months, as soon as we've everyone played off each other.
Brilliant. And can you talk about the 50 million funding you got from Hong Kong?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. We didn't want to talk about it, but someone leaked it to the bloody press. Actually, the big thing, it was funny, our seed round, we never talked about that either. It was a thing in the company. I remember when we closed it, like we came in and we said, lads, we were done. Like a Tuesday, we said we'd close it. Well done, thanks, drive on. I'd be very wary of celebrating funding rounds. You know, I still haven't worked out what people are celebrating. Now, don't get me wrong, when you do a big one, like 50 million, you celebrate because, my God, it's painful getting there. You know, but I don't see the benefit. But so yeah, the 50 million, like we were always going to go that route. Really, it was deciding where we were going to take the money from, and I talked to a lot of people, and that's where I probably did a lot of navel gazing. Spent time down the valley, like talking. I was working with all the partners and all the top VC firms. It was great fun. I'll tell you, they're sharp cookies. You see it in Silicon Valley, which is a great show, and you think it's basketball. They're the smartest scores I've ever met. Them boys know how to make money. Now it might be best for the company, but who cares? They know how to make money. So we were talking to the venture capital side, and we'd had a bit of a feel for it. We had a good face for corporate investment as well. So corporate investments will be the likes of, the big companies, the Boeings and Airbus and that. They all have little venture funds and Lockheed. So we'd have a good face for that because we were a proper company that could take in money. And then private equity, and I mean, venture capital is private equity without boring anyone. But private equity, tends to invest maybe in later stage companies and bring them through to IPO and, fire the CEO and make a proper company out of it. So we decided that was the route for us. And but it wasn't. I mean, there was, as I say, there was a lot of navel gazing, and you're building a different company depending on which of those routes you go on. And it was kind of, we wanted to do a route that was to the end, that could get us to the finish. And actually the seed round could have got us to the finish too, because we got ourselves sorted and you're deciding what kind of a company you do. So this worked for us. Consortium of Hong Kong investors, they're like quoted companies, but it's private because they're heavily involved in our areas of business, so why give your competitors the heads up on what you're doing. So they were the right fit for us. Like, that's how we got plugged in and got a factory going straight away.
Brilliant.
But we knew them before we ever started the company. So it's amazing the way things work out. There's, even if you look across our company and the people working there now, the majority of them were people we knew before we ever set up Arralis. And like that's very important, that whole relationship and understanding. So they knew we weren't fly-by-nights either. And so it's worked out well for us.
So like you've been very strategic, sticking with the original business plan, following it through and taking a lot of risks. How important early on is, and throughout the process, is having good mentors to draw on for advice and bouncing board?
Yeah, it is. Like, and obviously your first port of call is your co-founder. But I'd have always poor Eamon, he's getting an awful mention it tonight, he'd be bombarded tomorrow. But Eamon would have been a mentor to me prior to Eamon Ryan, prior to ever setting Arralis up. Like we'd met for lunch or whatever, and the poor man can listen to awful rubbish over the years. But it is very important. But bringing the boys in non-execs, I think non-execs are very important for us. Like non-executive directors that sit on the board, they don't have a share in the company, so they make decisions and they give advice based on what's best for the company, not what's best for you, not what's best for your venture capitalists, what's best for the company. And I learned from previous experiences that was a very valuable thing. So the first two people I picked up the phone to were Eamon and Pat O'Sullivan Green, and because they were two people, I have a reasonably forceful personality now. I know I'm very timid and quiet tonight, but I can be a bit drive on and not look back. So it was important to bring in guys like that who would tell me when I was being full of shite. And believe me, they did. And so our board meetings were never quiet. They weren't, going through the motions. They were good fun. And even with the people that work with me, there was no shrinking violets there, him, Bun and myself, we're both Carroll when we grew up together. Him had no problem telling me over a game of table tennis I was a dope. and rightly so, and I think we created that culture within the place. I don't think anyone maybe was afraid of speaking their mind, because they often did. So I think that was important. So I think the right mentors are important. And you got to be careful what they're there for and what's in it for them. But I knew there was nothing in it for Pat and him, only pain. So they were definitely the right fellas to have on board.
You did an interview with John Kennedy in Senegal Republic during the week, and you spoke a bit about the environment in Ireland not being the healthiest in terms of capital gains tax on share options for startups. What's your views on that? I mean, do we need to do a lot to keep startups here and have a proper culture?
Yeah. I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. The government can do what they like. And I've tried the whole sitting down with them and saying, look, these are some of the things you got to do. But there's no point in going out saying this is the best place in the world to start a company when it patently isn't true. And I like facts and figures. I'm that's why I slept with Hittite figures under my pillow, because that doesn't lie. I love P&Ls. P&Ls and balance sheets don't lie, right? And the fact of the matter is, Ireland is not even the best place on this island to start a business, right? So we got to be very careful about this whole thing. And there's a couple of things in that. Like there's the capital gains thing, but obviously that's a selfish thing for me, as a founder. That it's ridiculous. Better off if you're in Belfast, you start a company and sell it for 10 million, you pay $1 million in tax. No one likes paying 10% tax. 33% tax is stupid. That has to go. It's no brainer. Get rid of it. ESOP is a disaster. Startup companies, the best thing you can have in your arsenal is giving someone a piece of the pie. You don't do it because, trust me, no founder gives away equity cheaply unless they've got a rubbish company, right? But if you're building a proper company and you're passionate about it, by God, you fight every investor and you fight everyone for it. But you want to be able to give shares to employees, and we just don't have a system. It's just broken. It doesn't work. So they have to just fix that. EIS is better over there. So we just I think that's, if we could just do what they're doing. But I always think Ireland should be trying to do stuff that's a bit edgier. And Sweden now have gotten zero tax on employee share options. Why not do that?
And the EU allowed them to do that.
The EU allowed them to do it.
Your commission, so there is
we're too bloody compliant with the EU altogether. We I don't know. I've lived in a lot of different places, and I've lived around Europe, and no one's as compliant with the EU. And I was talking to someone who shall remain nameless, and how government see it, I think, or someone I was talking to see it as we tend to screw up and then get in trouble, and then everyone's watching us. instead of getting it right from the beginning. And the French, and they apologise to no one, and the Germans, they do it their way and do what's best for the country. And I think that's what we have to do. Do what's best for Ireland and ask forgiveness later.
Wise words. So we're nearly getting ready to Q&A because I'm sure people are just like dying to ask questions. IPO, eventually?
Who knows? All I know is we kind of took the attitude from the beginning. Let's build a proper company. Let's build towards a path to IPO, because where else do you go, right? Build on that path, and things happen along the way. And it's as simple as that. If you're building a proper company and you've got a good company and you've got sales and all that stuff, you'll attract investment, right? And again, driving along, you'll attract acquisition offers. And if you keep going, you get the IPO. That's the path we're on. Guys who we've taken on, obviously, they have to get paid back. The investors, and they've done a number of IPOs. They know what they're doing, thankfully, because I have a bloody clue. And so that's the path. That's definitely the path we're on. But who knows?
Amazing story so far. Thanks a million, Barry. Thanks for sharing all that.
Thank you, Bruce.